Thanks for staying with us here on TVC Breakfast. It's now time for us to look at what the papers are saying. First, we'll have a peek through the papers. The Nation newspaper is always the first. Mbah opens another gale of governor's defection to APC. Shetima, Yewatda, Akpabio, Abbas to receive governor. PDP won't despair, says Makinde. Blueprint newspaper looks at the electoral reforms. 2027, National Assembly proposes November 2026 for presidential governorship polls. And the riders read, seeks conclusion of litigations before inauguration. Stakeholders demand electronic voting, results transmission. The Daily Times, electoral reform. National Assembly proposes November 2026 for presidential governorship elections. Next is This Nigeria. Senate proposes law to end litigation before swearing in once presidential election or presidential and guber polls held November 2026 instead of February, March 2027. TUC demands implementation of Ways reports. Next is Leadership newspaper about the no work, no pay brouhaha. We are not intimidated by the no work, no pay threat, say varsity or university lecturers, as government orders vice chancellors to enforce anti-strike policy. Strike paralyzes activities across campuses nationwide. Nigerian News Direct, Sanwo-Olu Uzodinma lead talks on constitutional role for traditional rulers, says military era stripped monarchs of rightful powers. Next is The Guardian newspaper looking at the oil sector. 72.64% of Nigeria's petrol imported amid rivalry from new refineries. Next is The Help newspaper. Ondo 2014 retirees receive 1.4 billion naira gratuities amid emotions. Aiyedatiwa vows to continue transparency, fairness in pension payment, says, I started this when I was deputy governor under my boss, late Akeredolu. Platform Times, 20% of adolescents battle mental disorders globally. That's according to the World Health Organization. Warns of underdiagnosis, stigma, neglect among youths, calls for stronger investment, community engagement in mental health. And last but not least will be the Sporting Live. Nigeria versus Republic of Benin, which is going to happen later today at 5 p.m. Eagles die, God forbid. Nigerians determined to fight for a decent win. All right, again, let's get down to brass tacks. I'll be doing this with my colleagues, Toma, happily with Ria, and exultantly with
So what word for Etoma now? Etoma.
No, it's Etoma.
All right then. Let's see. The Nation newspaper. Looking at, we had this conversation yesterday, with our guest. We talked about Governor Mbah, Peter Mbah, who will be moving to the APC alongside his 26 lawmakers, over 200, local council chairman. All of them, lawmakers and all of that. So Shetima, Yewatda, Akpabio, Abbas to receive the governor, and PDP is saying, we won't despair, says, or let me just say it in Latin, new desperandum, PDP.
Yeah, if you were in PDP, what would you say? You say the same thing. It's going to be a big party today in Enugu. Right now, if you go to the capital, everything is, the whole place is bustling. Is going to be a massive party, definitely a public holiday in that state. And,
a political public holiday.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
A political public, because actually what can you do? What can you do as a civil servant or private business people will make some extra money today. And Enugu is going to be a beehive of activities. It is one governor leaving. And from every indication, we have other governors that are in line waiting to have their own big party that's moving from one party to the APC. Either PDP, LP, whatever. Everybody is going to be. So what is in the APC that is making all of them go there.
Everybody wants the winning team,
APC
actually.
is the bride that everyone wants to call.
The
at
beautiful
the time.
one.
Probably, exactly,
And,
beautiful bride.
Yesterday's conversation was just beautiful with our guest, because there's so many things that, we got to learn from him, so many things that we didn't know about. But this move that we're talking about, I remember asking him yesterday, is he a stomach infrastructure move or a move for, everybody just wants to go to the winning party and not about the people? But we heard him mention the fact that, I think he said he suffered for 20 how many years, their community has not
26
received,
years.
26 years, the community has not received anything. But for me, what I just worry about is that this ends the political dominance that PDP has had, not just in Enugu, but in the East. And it's quite scary, because right now they are saying that they can bounce back, but like all their people are leaving. How do you now continue to build that party that can stand the test of time, that will take you to 2027 when most of your strong heads have left? Pintaba was a very strong person there. Like, he was the only one that people were now looking, that, oh, he's still at the PDP, but now him going is quite scary.
Yeah.
And I was saying yesterday that everybody wants to come to, APC, the beautiful bride. But at the end of the day, APC also has to be careful, because you cannot just say, well, if you put sugar down, everybody will come around it. Some are coming for good, some are coming for bad. And this is not me saying that he's going for bad, but I also want them to look at the amount of people they allow into the party. I hope him joining the party will be for his people and not for his personal interest, that he just wants to join the winning team. Basically, that's my take on it.
Unfortunately, there is freedom of association, freedom of movement, but the question there is, people will now be asking the moral aspect of it. Yes, as a representative, you're given the mandate. So you have representative freedom. Yes, you can move anyhow. But what about the electoral mandate? Because people actually elected you on this platform. They are convinced that you riding on this platform, you will give them dividends of democracy. And as they say in politics, that wherever Enugu goes, the Southeast follows.
Yeah. Absolutely, indeed, Ibrahim. Like you rightly mentioned, this could cause a chain reaction in the South. Already seeing a lot of his cabinet members left with him. But I will say this, when we look at the concept of a political party, each of them stand on certain ideals, certain ideological beliefs that ground them. And so it's a shame to see that oftentimes in Nigeria, political survival will often trump party loyalty. You have people even that stay in their parties in some countries because this is what we believe. We started on this mandate and this is our belief. But in Nigeria, the landscape is very different. It's political survival over, and for a lot of people who are saying that this is a betrayal by Mbah. It's not betrayal, it's strategy, and that is the name of the game.
But according to him, Olamide, he had said that PDP did not treat him well. According to him, fair to him, what he said was that he wasn't treated well.
I'll be curious to see how the crowd reacts to this.
All of them will say that, and I keep asking, what about those countries where, like you said, if you're a member of a party, you're there for life? Is it that your party treats you well every time?
But Etoma, have you forgotten what I was telling you? I was telling the guests yesterday that I do not understand why everybody is trying to go to the APC. At the end of the day, it's democracy. We need to have a viable, opposition.
Looking at Nigeria's history, when it comes to politics, the ruling party is always quoted by all other local parties. I mean, mushroom. I don't want to use the word mushroom. The opposition. So you will see.
But these numbers are quite startling.
Yes, so you see them moving almost into the ruling party. It's about strategy, as Olamide had rightly put it. Now let's move on to the Blueprint newspaper and the Daily Times, as well as the This Nigeria. Looking at National Assembly proposing 2026 for presidential governorship election, and then also looking at the electoral reform. So not boring us with some of these headlines. They actually practically say, if you look at the bill that is being sponsored, at the National Assembly, I think Section 4, subsection 7 is saying that the presidential election should be moved backward, and then 185 days should be set aside. Should be the time between the next election, the last election and this very next election. So that means they will have to move it to November the 6th. The same thing goes to Section 4, subsection 5 of the Electoral Amendment Act, bill. So the challenge there is, they're saying we have to do this before February and March so that all litigations will end, I think, between 90 days or thereabouts.
You see, my worry about it is that the major consideration is the litigations. They are not thinking of so many other things. How will that improve the timetable, the political timetable in Nigeria? Those states that have to conduct their governorship elections away from the rest, is that going to help? That's number two. And then November, it's so close to December. And the only thing, take a look at this. I had to bring this out. The chairman of the House Committee on Electoral Matters, Honorable Adebayo Balogun, explained that the move is designed to ensure that all manner of election litigations are dispensed with before the swearing in of the winners. He said the National Assembly plans to amend Section 285 and 139 of the 1999 Constitution to shorten the timeline for election petition, reducing. And you know that the justice system in Nigeria grinds very slowly, except we're going to have special courts that will take a look at these things. And election matters. Take the Peter Obi case, where documents were brought in boxes, so many boxes.
Some of them.
Will 60 days be enough to look at all those things? Those are my worries, you know. But the general idea of dispensing with litigations before swearing in, I like it. But the practicability with the situation we find ourselves right now in Nigeria, that's what I doubt.
Rare.
The idea looks good, but the implementation is now going to be the problem. You know, at the end of the day, there has been a date that for the election to happen, and knowing that right now we want to move it closer. But if you look at it, you know, I'm looking at the timing. When is campaign going to start? When are they going to start campaign, which is very important. Now, are they going to rush everything? Have people even registered enough in INEC to go out and vote? So these are questions that we need to look at. It's fantastic that they want, okay, everything should be cleared before people get into office, because oftentimes these court cases get so tiring and you're just tired of it. But then again, implementing it in Nigeria, is this something that is going to work? Right. So for me, it's a lofty headline. I want to see if it will be able to, you know, stand the test of time and work. For me, that's what I think.
Yeah, one thing is Nigerians will never get tired of, who is the winner at the end of the day, because it has always interested a whole lot of people. So for how long it's going to run, it's another, kettle of fish.
Absolutely. I think that this compresses Nigeria's political calendar, which means that campaigns, governance, transition logistics, they could overlap. On the other hand, I also understand that this is good for us, but it does put a lot of pressure on INEC. INEC is already thinking, they just put a new chairman in place. They're already thinking about how they're going to implement all these new reforms and all this digitalization before the 2027 elections. And now you're going to put them under unnecessary pressure. You know what I mean? But like you rightly said, Etoma, this would also help with litigation. If everything is sorted out, we could now handle the litigation, and by May 2027, when it's time for swearing in, everything is as it should be.
All right, we need to race on because of our time, Etoma, unfortunately. Let's move on to Leadership newspaper. We may not dwell too much on it, because that's, of course, it's informing our conversation with on our next segment. We are not intimidated by no work, no pay threats, say varsity lecturers, as government orders vice chancellors to enforce anti-strike policy. Strike paralyzes activities across campuses nationwide. We expressed worries, concerns, regarding the strike action by, rightfully so. But then the government is saying that we've met all the demands. We've paid 50% of this and that. You just have to give us more time, or probably we need to come to the round table. So we will iron this out rather than, going the Pengasson way. It's a new word in our lexicon now. You'll be Pengasson.
I love it.
All right. What they are saying now is what they would have brought to the table when they had the 14-day warning. I'm talking about government now. They would have done this earlier, not now. Now it's a little bit late. But however, you won't throw the baby with the bathwater, and you want to ask ASU to have a rethink. But we had the ASU national president on the program yesterday, and some of the things he said were really touching. He said, okay, you are telling us about setting aside 50 billion naira for 193 universities. How much will that cater for? You've told us about this. He was just touching them. And he now said that the document they presented to them is not the document they want government to take a look
I want to
at.
touch on this a little bit, because we keep hearing we are meeting their demands. Is it the demands that they want that we are meeting? That's the question that we need to ask, because somebody cannot want water and you're giving the person a soft drink. So we need to know exactly what these people want, and them saying that right now they do not care about it. For example, University of Jos, they've said that they are not backing down. Whatever it is, they're still going to go on the strike, which is quite scary, because I know a lot of people right now in Jos that would not be able to go to school because of this strike. I feel like this is something that should have been settled even before it got to where it has gotten to, because right now where it has gotten to is quite dicey.
We just have to race on. Olamide, Nigerian News Direct, Sanwo-Olu Uzodinma lead talks on constitutional role for traditional rulers, says military era stripped monarchs of rightful powers, not just even the military era. During the colonial era, they stripped traditional rulers of their powers. You remember the Benin Empire, you remember the Oyo Empire, you remember even the Jollof or Wolof Empire in Senegal. All of those empires in Africa, they demystified it, they deconstructed it, they destroyed it, and the military also came. That interregnum also caused a whole lot of problems. So they are seeking, like when we talk about insecurity, when we talk about governance, give traditional rulers their flowers.
I completely agree. Traditional rulers are the closest thing that we have right now to the grassroots, whether we want to admit it or not. In many communities, rural areas, even in some urban areas as well, people report and still revert to traditional authorities. And I think that we are underutilizing them in terms of how much cohesion and unity and peace and togetherness they could bring, aside from even just maintaining the identity of certain communities that are very distinct. I think give them some more power. They have no real power in governance. I'm not saying they should have power in governance, but we must give respect to where respect is due.
But
they govern their enclaves. They should govern their enclaves. And let us look at the other side of the coin.
Are you kidding me?
Some of
when you say govern the enclaves, even the local government chairman, according to the constitution, is the traditional ruler are subservient to the
yes, but the local government chairman is superintending over several villages. I'm saying if you are a traditional ruler, take care of your village. Do you get what I'm saying? But let us look at the flip side. Some of these rulers also make their stools not to be that really respected. We need more integrity.
We'll talk
about it. We just have to quickly go on a very quick break. Do stay with us here on TVC Breakfast. We'll take a break and be back to continue with the headlines. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us here on TVC Breakfast. We've been looking at what the papers are reporting today, and then I think we were discussing the Nigerian News Direct, where Sanwo-Olu Uzodinma lead talks on constitutional role for traditional rulers. Says military era stripped monarchs of rightful powers. We can also remember RIA in Kano State under the Ganduje leadership in Kano, where what was that word? Dethroned the Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, and then balkanized, all of the enclave, all of the territories, under the Kano Emirate. We have the Rano, Karaye, Gara, etc. at the time. But give the traditional rulers, that position, at least within democracy. Let them also have constitutional powers.
I agree with that, because I'll take you to Ghana. In Ghana, that's exactly how it is. All the leaders have the, constitutional powers, which makes a lot of sense. But when it comes to Nigeria, all I'll say is that our leaders also have to, the traditional leaders have to put themselves, to be upright. Let me put it in that way. You need to put yourself in a way that nobody can talk to you anyhow. Nobody can undermine what you do. Over a period of time, they've been doing a fantastic job. But, year in, year out, you hear some things about, when they do things that you are wondering, how can this come from, such a person?
When so I think that to be partisan.
Exactly. So I think that with them also, they need to make their seats right, but it's the right thing to do. I even know that in South Africa it's like that as well. But like in Ghana, or Tutu, which is one of the rulers, it's there, it's in the constitution, so he has those powers. I think it's something Nigeria can adopt as well.
Absolutely. Now, let's move on to the Guardian newspaper. 72.64% of Nigeria's petrol imported amid rivalry from new refineries. There are some other countries that are seeking to come up. Dangote refinery is actually the highest when it comes to Africa. West Africa, I think Africa generally. So with them 650,000 barrels per day. Other refineries, Warri, Port Harcourt, and what have you? Sorry, not you. When I say what have you, they are actually not meeting up with their expectations. And Dangote, from January, it actually did very well in terms of what it churned out. Then it started, going down from March, before they now became. Before they were now pengasoned, and then we see the challenges, the problems that we're seeing in our oil sector. So what say you, to these,
I think that the most dangerous place any country or nation can be in the global market is to be a constant and perpetual consumer instead of a producer. And so when we have these conversations, I can't help but it's not the figures that get to me. It's the constant narrative, the disadvantage that this puts us on in the global market, that we are constantly consuming. It's not good enough.
Especially when we say we want to diversify our economy, which we have done, because I think about 95 or 96% of our GDP was actually done by the non-oil sector. We are trying so much to look away from it, as against what Professor Wale Soyinka said back in the day, that the day Nigeria discovered oil, that was the day the country was cursed. And we can see all of the things that happened, the Goni killings, all of those things. So what we need to do, what do you think that exactly what we need to do to ensure that whatever it is, crude oil, we have enough, but we are not really supplying Dangote, we are not supplying these refineries as much as they should get, so much so that we have enough to flow around.
We have the petroleum industry bill that allows modular refineries, but the licensing...
Act, you mean?
The Act, sorry. The Act, yes. The licensing of the modular refinery is something that has a question mark because it allows you to establish, but operations, what about operations? So we should clear and make the petroleum industry bill very simple, make it clear for the average Nigerian child, I'm not talking about man, to understand. If that happens, we are going to have more local investments in refining oil, and that means we're going to have a lot of the product around. That will impact on the price, it will impact on a whole lot of things, and we will now become a major exporter. Right now, it's only Dangote that is clearing that shame off our faces and, sending refined petroleum products out of Nigeria. We have to look at that PIB.
And I think it's high time that we...
I know this. People are benefiting from this.
I guess it's high time we also try to diversify, just like what you were saying, agriculture. There's so many things, but we just stay with that oil. And I feel like that's why we are in this confusion, because we try to stay with one thing. What about tourism? There's so many things we can diversify and do. We talk about tech as well. We don't talk about those things. We're only talking about oil. So I think that with Nigeria as well, these are things that we need to look out for and not just say we are just on only oil. Because most of the conversations we speak about is oil. It's either Dangote, Pinga said this, that. We do not really talk about
we are actually diversifying, looking at what we are earning from the non-oil sector, precisely. But there is no way we cannot but always talk about oil because it's still...
No, I mean, we can talk about it, but let's have other things that we get to talk about. Let's also talk about agriculture.
Don't worry, when they come on the headlines, we'll talk about it.
And if you look at it, other countries are, striving. They are doing so much to come upstream. Look at Senegal, targeting 100,000 barrels per day refinery. Libya, 220,000 barrels per day. I don't know, Libya, since the problem that U.S. actually caused them, they've been faltering, they've been in shambles and all of that.
It will take some time
because they have a whole lot of deposits. Talk about Egypt, 8,000 barrels per day. No, sorry, 180,000 barrels per day, etc., etc. So other countries in Africa are coming up. But one thing we must do is to wean ourselves away from these Western powers. So much so that when the dollar goes into, the dollar coughs, our own currencies don't go into ICU.
Exactly.
We'll catch cold.
Right. Very quickly, I understand that we need to race on. The Hope newspaper, Ondo 2014 retirees receive 1.4 billion naira gratuities amid emotions. Good news.
That's good
but
news.
At the same time, this is coming rather late, but better late than never, they say. Olamide, very quickly.
Absolutely. I always will commiserate with the plight of pensioners because you spend years in service to your country and you have nothing to show for it at the end of the day. I must say very controversially, I don't commend this. I say this is what should have been done a long time ago. In fact, add interest.
Yeah, I'm happy that they get to get their money. Oftentimes we've spoken about it where they are crying, they're even taking the matter to God. But now I pray that the money... Exactly. Now I pray that the money gets into their pockets. Now let them have the money in their pockets.
But what's the value of this money? Because the value of it at the time compared to what it is now.
Exactly. That's another
pressures and all of that. Yeah. Well, last but not least, unfortunately, we may not be able to take the platform time. 20% of adolescents battle mental disorders globally. That's WHO. And then we want the country to do much more. But tonight, 5 p.m., Nigeria and Benin Republic, they are gunning for their throats.
Bring it home, boys.
And we pray that South Africa does not win so that we can conveniently qualify after we must have trounced, defeated, beaten
5 p.m. sharp.
Benin Republic.
I'm hopeful.
But Benin Republic has never qualified for, this.
So I don't know if they will hate me in Benin Republic, but I don't think they are that strong. I think Nigeria will beat them. I'm looking at 3-0.
Well,
I'm looking at 3-0. I don't think they are that strong compared to our super
From what I hear, there are no underdogs in football anymore.
Yeah.
So whether it's Benin Republic and right now they have a reason to fight.
Absolutely.
But our Super Eagles also have that reason to fight. So please, let's 5 o'clock is 5 o'clock.
So talk to your boys. Osimhen is there.
Sacre bleu.
Follow Osimhen.
I'll give you a call after this.
But 3 of our players will not be featuring. So I can't remember the names now. But We just hope that we're able to defeat them. Let's really move on. That's about it for the newspapers up for review. Still to come, we will explore how the ASU strike is impacting learning, increasing uncertainty in Nigeria's universities, and what this means for the future of higher education.